You're listening to the Community Link crew on GFM 96.6.
Okay, now time to talk about Digital Switchover, and in the studio we have with us Ed Jezard, the Regional Manager, Central Digital Switchover Help Scheme, BBC, God, that's a mouthful, isn't it? And Claire Huckett, who's the Project Manager. Now, welcome both of you to GFM 96.6.
Hello.
Hi. Great. Now, I've been hearing about Digital Switchover for at least a couple of years. It's been talked about. I haven't really bothered to, truthfully, find out exactly what that actually means and how, in fact, it would impact on me. I think I'm okay, but there'll be lots of people out there who've also heard about it, but not 100% sure. Tell us what exactly it is.
Well, the analogue TV signal that we've all been enjoying for the last 50 or 60 years is going to be turned off for good in the Gloucestershire area on April the 6th. So the bottom line is, if you're still watching analogue TV and you do nothing between now and April the 6th, then you will start to lose your picture. Okay. So we're actually upgrading to the new digital platform. The reason we're doing this is because some people can get digital TV at the moment and some can't. So we're making digital available for all. And what that means is it means there's more channels, so you get more choice, but you also get enhanced services as well, like HD TV and interactive, for example.
Okay, now, you mentioned the word analogue. Now, to me, TV, up until a year ago, a TV was a TV. I know the difference between an analogue and a digital, but again, some of our listeners might not know that. Do you want to explain what an analogue TV is and
Sure.
probably what it looks like as well?
So, most TVs that have been sold within the last 5 or 10 years are digital TVs. And if you're watching more than 4 or 5 channels, then you are digital already. But if you've got one of the older style sets and you're only picking up those 4 or 5 channels, that means you are still an analogue viewer. And what you need to do is you need to upgrade your TV to receive the digital picture. For most people, that's simply a case of going down to your local retailer and buying a digital set-top box. Now, these can be plugged into almost any television. In fact, we found an old set in Scotland from 1937 that we managed to plug a digibox into and upgrade that. And I'm always surprised as well about how many people are still watching black and white TV. So even if you've got one of the old black and white TVs, that can be upgraded as well. Okay.
Now, when I recently purchased a digital TV, came equipped with the Freeview channels, I couldn't actually watch it, and it turned out the reason why it was the aerial. So if you've got a digital TV but your aerial is, I'm assuming, an analogue aerial, what do you need to do?
Well, actually, for the vast majority of people, you don't need to do anything to your aerial. So the general rule of thumb is if you're getting a good picture now, you'll get at least a good picture after switchover. But I will say this, we are actually broadcasting the digital signal in low power at the moment. Because we're broadcasting, I won't get too technical on you here, I promise, but we're broadcasting analogue and digital signals at the same time. And in order for the digital signal not to interfere with the analogue, we broadcast it on a very low power. So at switchover time, when that analogue signal's turned off, we boost the power on the digital signal, and that will clear up most of those reception problems. So my advice is, don't do anything just yet. Wait until switchover, because you'll probably find that those picture problems will clear up.
Okay. So, and then there'll be other people who've already set up and ready to go who will have to do nothing at all, won't there?
Yeah, there's probably about 75% of homes who are already watching digital TV, but you will need to do a retune on switchover days. That's quite important because that catches a lot of people out. So even if you are watching digital TV, you don't go through switchover completely unscathed. You will need to do a retune. Now, most TVs and set-top boxes actually prompt you to do that. So it'll say, we found new channels, do you want to retune now? A lot of people do this on a regular basis anyway.
So it'll be that sort of thing. It'll prompt you.
It's a very simple and straightforward process, and you need to do that on 2 days. You need to do that on the 6th of April and again on the 20th of April, because a switchover is actually a two-stage process. It happens over 2 weeks. On the first of those days, the BBC2 analogue signal goes off air, so that's a bit of a prompt that something's happening. And then on the second date, which is the 20th of April, the remaining analogue channels go off air for good. So if you don't do anything between now and the 20th of April, you will be looking at a blank screen if you're still on the old analogue system. If you're digital, you need to retune your set.
Okay, so there'll be a lot of people out there like myself who are technophobes. The minute digital is mentioned, start getting into a proper panic. And although I'm a very sensible person, I can't see the wood for the trees, and I need to let somebody else sort it out for me. And I'm, talking about people who are quite vulnerable, the elderly, the infirm, and people who don't necessarily have a good command of the English language. Now, I know that you're here to talk to us about the help scheme, this digital help scheme that you're running. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's probably important to say that for most people, switchover is a very simple and straightforward process. But you are right, there are some that are going to struggle with the new technology. I've got grandparents who are in their 80s, and I know that they're going to struggle with switchover. And some people are going to struggle for different reasons. They may have learning difficulties or dementia, for example. And the government has recognised this, and they've quite rightly set up the switchover help scheme. Mm-hmm. The government's asked the BBC to run the help scheme on its behalf. And what the help scheme does is that it provides practical assistance for eligible older and disabled people to convert one of their TV sets to digital. So there's two important things here. There is eligibility for the scheme. You need to be over 75. You need to be in receipt of certain disability benefits.
Do you know which ones those are?
Yes, I do, yeah. It's disability living allowance, attendance allowance or constant attendance allowance, or mobility supplement, or if you're registered blind or partially sighted, or if you've lived in a care home for 6 months or more, then you qualify for the help. Now, the good news is that we know who these people are, and we do write to them individually up to 3 times. So people will have received an information pack in the post from us if they're eligible, but they do need to respond to us to get help. So it's important that they get in touch if they want our help. Now, if they do sign up for the scheme, what we do for them is that we come into the home and we install all of the equipment that's necessary to convert one TV to digital. So what that means is that we put in a set-top box. If they do need aerial work, we will do that for them as well. If they need a satellite dish, we'll even put that up. But where the real value of the scheme comes in is with its aftercare services. So when the technician comes into the home to install the box, he takes the time to explain things clearly and simply, and he won't leave that person's home until they're entirely comfortable with how that equipment works. Now, we also have a dedicated helpline where people are specially trained to deal with our eligible people's needs, and they take the time, again, on the phone to explain things clearly and simply. And if that doesn't work, we'll send someone back into the home to re-demonstrate that equipment as many times as that person needs it.
Okay. I know one of the categories you mentioned were people with dementia who are not going to be in a position, obviously, to be able to take in board that information. Would you work with their carers to make sure that there's a carer present at the time of the visit, so that they, or at the time of the telephone call, so that you can talk the carer through? Yeah,
well, we arrange appointments at a time that suits, and we work with a lot of local organisations as well, and we actually have a chaperone service so that we can organise for someone to be there at the time of installation. We work with the local WRVS for that. So if they do want a carer presence, we'll make sure we're there at a time that suits them. If they don't have anyone, we can provide that chaperone for them.
Great, okay. Now, you mentioned it's disability living allowance, attendance allowance, the mobility component, if you're registered blind or if you've lived in a care home for more than 6 months, I think you said. What about people, because and you said you know who these people are, but what about, because there'll be people who may have a dementia but haven't necessarily claimed some of those benefits. How are you actually finding these people?
Well, if they are registered for those benefits, because it's a government scheme, we work with the Department of Work and Pensions and others, and we do have access to data for the people who are registered for those benefits, and that's how we write to them. But it's probably worth mentioning as well, there is another set of eligibility here, which determines whether you pay for the help or not.
Right. Okay.
Now, some people will pay £40 for the help, but others will get the help for free. So if you're in receipt of certain income-related benefits, and those are pension credit, income support, employment support allowance, or income-based job seekers allowance, then you get the help for free. It's probably worth saying that the £40 amount is a heavily subsidised amount, so the equipment that we install alone is worth more than £40, and if you add up some of those aftercare services, they could run into the hundreds.
Sure.
So at £40, it's a pretty compelling proposition, but if you get the help for free, then it's well worth taking up the scheme.
Great. Okay. Now, people who have the digital TV installed, would they get choices of the channels that they can receive?
That's right. So when we write to people, they receive what we call an options pack. Now, we have what we call a standard offer, which is our Freeview set-top box. Now, that box has been specially designed for our eligible people's needs. So it's easy, robust equipment, and it has enhanced functionality like audio description. The remote control has been specially designed for ease of use. Now, that's our £40 or free offer. But we do find that some people want to have a new flat screen digital TV, or they do a lot of recording and they want the recorder box as well. And we don't want to exclude anyone from the scheme who wants to get all of the aftercare services because they want a different bit of kit. So we do offer different options, including a TV and a digital recorder. We have a new piece of kit for this region, which is a talking box. So for the blind and partially sighted, this box will actually talk through menus. It also describes some of the action that's happening on screen as well. So if you do want to upgrade to those, there is an additional cost. But as I say, we do have the standard offer, which suits most people, and that's £40 or free.
Okay. If I give you a scenario, then perhaps sort of to bring it to life, you might be able to sort of indicate whether this person would or wouldn't be able to receive a service from you. They've currently got cable TV, but they're registered blind. They're over 75. They're in receipt of attendance allowance, and also it'll be the older person's income support pension credit.
Well,
if that person wanted to have an enhanced service, in terms of it would be better to have a remote control that was more user-friendly, and perhaps the talking service, would you be able to go into that household given the fact that they've actually got cable TV currently?
Well, it's really important that you mentioned cable TV, actually, because switchover only affects you if you're watching TV through an aerial. So if you're getting cable TV or a satellite service now, then you're totally unaffected by switchover. So if you're happy with that equipment, then there's no reason why you should change that for switchover, and there's no need for you to do so. The help scheme is really designed to help guide those people through the switchover process that need that.
Right, okay. So this individual wouldn't necessarily qualify for the assistance then?
He does absolutely qualify for the help because he's over 75 and he's in receipt of the benefits that make him eligible, and we will write to him to offer him that help. Now, he may decide that he's paying a subscription and actually he can get the equipment through the help scheme, and he may no longer need to pay that subscription, and and therefore that's a choice that he can make, but he will qualify for the help, and he will be entitled to that if he wants it.
Great, that's good to hear then, because I think there are quite a few people out there who've gone, relatives sorts this stuff out for them, but it's not that user friendly really, because relatives have to be there to operate the system.
That's exactly it.
And that's can be quite tedious.
We had a scenario that I know of where someone's son who lived in Australia came back at Christmas and said, I've heard about this switchover happening. His mum was in her 70s, and he said, look, I bought you this set-top box. This will get you through switchover. And come switchover time, she had no idea how to work this box, and the son was back in Australia, so she had no one anyone to call to show her either. So, that scenario is a good scenario whereby, the help scheme is probably the right option for her. There's someone for her to call, and we can send someone out to help her as well.
Brilliant. A question that was posed to me for me today by a member of the community. They have they're in receipt of Sky TV, but if that fails, then they have no they can't actually watch television. What do they need to do for the digital switchover?
Well, it sounds like if they're a Sky subscriber, they're getting their TV through a satellite dish. And if they don't have an aerial on their roof, or they don't have a functioning aerial, then the satellite dish is the only way they'll get that TV. And that sounds like that could be the case here. In those cases, what we'll do is we'll come in and install an aerial on the roof.
If you're eligible.
If you're eligible for the scheme, we'll put the box in for you, but we'll also do that aerial work. And some people's homes we go to, they do have aerials on their roof, but they're not getting a very good reception. The aerials are very old. It needs an upgrade, and we do that work. So you may be getting a satellite service now. We can come in and put an aerial in there if that's what you want.
Okay then. And the other scenario was analog TV, satellite subscription. What would they be entitled to? Meets the criteria, but what entitlement would they be? What offer of help would they be entitled to?
Well, it's again, and the offer of help is universal. So no matter what your television viewing is now, if you're eligible to get the help through the scheme, we will come out and help you.
Do something, and advise. Brilliant. Okay.
But in that case, if you are getting it through Sky and you're happy with your Sky, then you don't need to do anything. So you may not need the help in that scenario, but you are entitled to get that help if you want it.
Brilliant. Okay, let's carry on. Form filling, because I know that as you said, you sent letters out and I'm assuming people have to write something and send it back. For those who, often people don't fill out forms simply because they hate the idea of doing it and miss out on the support. Is there anything that, people can do to, in fact, is there anything the BBC is doing to support people with that?
Yeah, I don't like filling out forms either. So you do get an application form in the help scheme pack. You can fill in that form and send it back to us, but you don't have to. You can call our contact centre and apply over the phone. You can even nominate someone to apply on your behalf. And also we provide our information in a variety of different formats as well. So we can provide it in Braille, on audio CD, and we provide it in a host of different languages too. So if English isn't your first language, then you can get the information in your language as well. And we also have an interpreter service on our phone line, so you can speak to someone in your preferred language if that's what it suits you best.
Okay. A couple more questions for you, actually, just because, the idea of this is trying to give basic information to community members so that they can then make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to go ahead with it. Now, we often have trading standards in here and the community safety team advising people, don't open your door unless you identify the tradesperson. The people that are going to be coming round, will they be identifiable? And, the pre-booking of appointments, we've already spoken about, haven't we? But, are they going to be identifiable? Yeah,
well, we take security very seriously. In fact, all of our staff, including me, are advanced CRB checked. We don't call on anyone's home unannounced, so we will confirm an appointment with you on the point of application, but we'll also write to you to confirm that appointment in advance. Now, our installers have recognisable uniforms. They carry 3 forms of ID, including large print and Braille. And we also operate a password service as well. So our installers have to quote a predetermined word before you let them in the door. And I've also mentioned as well, if you're not comfortable with having a man in the house, then we can organise a chaperone from the WRVS to be there as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Now, lots of information, and I'm sure there's many people out there like me, you'll read it all and still want to ask further questions. So if people wanted to get in contact with the BBC regarding the help service that's the digital switchover scheme, what do they need to do? Well,
we do have a helpline, an information line that people can call. It's 0800 40 87 654, or if you're online, then it's all the W's, helpscheme.co.uk. But as I say, we do write to people, so have a look in the post for those packs that have come to you. If you've thrown it away, don't worry, you can apply over the phone. But we're also really trying to encourage people to look out for those other people on their street that might struggle, who might need the help, and let them know about the scheme, because we do write to everyone, but people don't understand sometimes, and they may think it's junk mail or whatever it might be.
Sure.
So we're encouraging people to lend a helping hand, and most people will know someone who's eligible for the scheme. In many cases it will be a family member, but almost certainly someone on their street will be eligible for this help. They may not be ready for switchover, so we're really encouraging people to look out for that person, knock on their door, check they're okay for switchover, and if they're eligible for the help, then let them know that there is help out there for them.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's turn to you now, Claire, because as Ed was saying, that you're trying to promote the whole of the help scheme in locality, Gloucestershire locality, and I know that part of your work as the project manager is to do some of that. Tell us what's been happening so far.
Well, I work for Gloucestershire Rural Community Council, and we work with the help scheme and with Digital UK, who are the ones behind the switchover as a whole. And what we're doing is we're working with communities and voluntary sector organisations to try and get as much information out as possible. So I've been going and talking to lunch clubs, coffee mornings, that sort of thing. And we also, to encourage voluntary and community groups to take up the offer of help or information. We are running a grant scheme as well to help with the costs of putting on an event on about the digital switchover. Now, it could be that I join in an existing event. So if a group has already got a session organised, I can come along to that, and the grant scheme you can access funds from the grant scheme to actually cover the costs of running that event.
Okay.
And we also have literature available, including our most popular one is actually a leaflet on how to retune Freeview equipment. It is proving by far and away the most popular.
Yeah, I might be asking for that one. Okay, so and I know you've done some work already with GFM to make sure that there's promotion of that scheme.
Yeah, that's through the help scheme again. It's the Helping Hands project, just to again getting information out, encouraging people to look out for people that they know, whether it's family members, whether it's neighbours, or whatever, because as Ed said, most people will know someone that needs the help and is eligible for the help, so they do need to be encouraged to apply.
Okay, how long is this project running for?
Well, we're running until the switchover itself. On the two switchover dates, the 6th and the 20th, and actually the day after each of them as well, there will be the Digital UK Switchover Roadshow will be in Gloucester. I think it's in King Square.
Okay.
So if people have any issues, any queries, they can go along to that. So that's the 6th and 7th and the 20th and 21st of April. But you can actually also access the help scheme up to a month after the switchover date has happened. So I don't know if someone's been away or if they do have their second TV that, well, their first one is sorted out or whatever, the help is still there. You can still access it for a month afterwards.
Okay, brilliant. And in terms of you coming along to community groups and organisations to deliver a talk, are you available for how much longer?
Well, probably. I mean, actually, yes, up until the switchover, really. So, yeah.
Okay. And if there are members of the community who are thinking, it'd be good to get you along, get a group of people together and have a discussion about it, and they're sort of wanting to plan, how long would you want to sort of spend some time talking to a community group? It
can be variable. I mean, I've got a talk that basic talk takes about 20 minutes, right, and then usually time for questions. So it can go on rather longer depending on what questions we get, and it's been fascinating actually, because the different levels of knowledge that people have. I was at a lunch club in the Forest of Dean the other week and was rather put on the spot by a chap who was quizzing me about high definition, and he was 100. Fair play to you. So yeah, it can be as long as as people need, as long as the people have got questions, really.
Okay, so if people wanted to be able to access that service, what do they need to do? Because you're at Gloucester Rural Community Council, aren't you? You're not actually part of the BBC.
No. So, we're based in the grounds of the cathedral. So our phone number there is 01452, obviously, 528 491. And you can contact me there.
And you're available to come out to do talks to community organisations. There's a little bit of funds as well to run that, the event. So it doesn't need to be anything majorly formal. It can just be, if there's a carers group or a coffee morning, you're happy to come out to those sorts of events. Oh, absolutely.
Those are the sort of things I've tended to be doing. I mean, we don't need people to go massively out of their way and put on a huge formal event, but if they've got an existing event and they'd like me to come along, quite happy to do that.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Claire, and hopefully you will be able to get the message out. But there will be, as you said, still help for the scheme up until...
It's a month after the switchover. You can still access it.
May, roughly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So if you're listening and you're a member of a community organisation or just an interested group of people who would like to have Claire to come along and talk to you, do get in contact with her at the Gloucester Rural Community Council. Telephone number 01452 528 491, and she can have a chat with you about how that can happen. And also, don't forget, if you want help with the switchover scheme, switchover is taking place in 2 stages, as Ed said, 6th of April 2011 and 20th of April 2011. You will have received your letters, but if not, do give a call on the free phone 0800 4087 654, or have a look on the website www.helpscheme.co.uk. And I know, Gloucester community, it's very big and we do support one another. So if you are listening in and you think you know somebody who might not be able to work their way through the switchover, do try to support them and make sure that they are aware that this is happening and that they can access the support. And for some it's going to be free, for others it's as cheap as £40, did you say, Ed?
£40 or free if you're in receipt of those income-related benefits.
Yeah, and what I didn't say is £40. That actually isn't a lot, is it?
Well, it's not. I mean, as I say, the box that we install is worth more than £40 alone, so the equipment's heavily subsidised, but where the real value of the scheme comes in is with these aftercare and support services, and we do go out to people's homes on multiple visits, and that cost could run into the hundreds, so it is very worthwhile at £40, and at free, it's a no-brainer.
And that aftercare service, is it run for a whole year beyond?
Yep. So you when you sign up to the scheme, you get that aftercare for a year after the date of installation. It's probably worth mentioning as well that the applications for the scheme are open for a month after the last transmitter switch in the region. This Gloucester area is part of the central region. It's one of the first to switch. There's switchovers that go right up until September, so you can apply for the help right up until October.
Okay.
Most people will apply for that help before then, because if they haven't done anything by the 20th of April, they'll need to get a move on, otherwise they'll lose their TV.
So what will people see? If they do nothing and they're one of the ones that do need support with the switchover, it'll just be a blank screen?
Well, yeah, on the 6th of April, BBC 2 goes off air, and the channels become a bit jumbled, so usually something takes its place, like ITV, and things get changed around a bit. But you're right, if you do nothing between now and the 20th of April, the 20th of April is when all of the analogue channels get turned off. If you're still watching analogue TV on the 20th of April, you will be watching a blank screen, I'm afraid. So you do need to take action if you're an analogue viewer. If you're a digital viewer, you need to just retune that equipment.
Brilliant. Ed and Claire, thank you very much for coming in and talking about that. And hopefully we have sent the message wide and very clearly to those people who need to act to this, and that they do act on the letters that they have already received.
Yes, they would have received the first letters before Christmas. If they haven't responded, they'll get a reminder at the end of January, and most people will get a second reminder letter around now. So look out for those, because they may be hitting the doormats as we speak.
Sure. And have people been quite proactive and have come forward for the help in Gloucestershire? Yeah,
we've got a good response in Gloucestershire. A lot of people actually, some people switched in Gloucestershire last year. year when the Bristol switchover happened.
Sure.
So people did get help with us then as well. But as I say, the scheme is open for some time yet, so there's plenty of opportunity for people to get that help if they want it.
Brilliant. The other thing you can do, listeners, is don't forget, you can contact us here at GFM 96.6 if you want the contact details for the digital switchover help scheme. As you know, as I said earlier, GFM has been doing some work with the scheme to ensure that we get the information out to you. So do give us a call here.
You're listening to the Community Link crew on GFM 96.6.